Right now on Sports Extra, the Dirty Birds are 1-0. Our biggest takeaways from the Falcons' Week 1 win over the Panthers. Oh, surprise, surprise, or maybe not, but it's official. The Braves will be playing in October and can clinch the division this week. What do they need to do before the postseason begins? Oh, and also, 2 weeks in, the world's most chaotic sport, college football, is already, well, really chaotic. We're talking about it all. The first Sports Extra of the NFL season is here, friends, and it starts right now. Yes, sir. Welcome on in, everybody. I'm Reggie Chatman. Welcome to Sports Extra. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the first full Sunday of NFL football. Boy, do we have so much to talk about, and it's more fun when the Dirty Birds are handling their business. Let's get right into it. Allow me to direct your attention to this. Your Atlanta Falcons are 1-0 to start the season for the first time since 2017. An impressive 24-10 win over the Panthers, where 14 fourth-quarter points and 3 forced turnovers ended up being the difference. That performance head coach Arthur Smith could be proud of because of how his team finished down the stretch.
We were able to adapt, and we were able to play as a team. Whether you get in there in field position, you get the turnovers. Like I said, we weren't clean enough in the first half in the passing game, and it's on everybody. And that I promise you will get cleaned up. But you can see the mental resolve, and that's how you win games like that as a team. And so we'll be back to work tomorrow. But very, very happy for our guys.
And boy, am I happy to have the two guys alongside me today. Jarvis Davis, straight from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Gabe Burns, straight from Truist Park. We're going to talk about everything, but I want to start with the Falcons, of course. Jarvis, winners in Week 1, and in honor of Texas winning over the weekend, the real question is, are the Falcons back?
Wow, that's a great question.
There it is.
I don't think we know the answer to that just yet, because to be honest with you, that first game, like the first half of this game kind of felt like preseason to me. Like, because the offense looked sluggish, Desmond Ridder, timing was off. He was kind of holding on to the football a little bit, almost kind of just stepping into sacks or stepping into, defensive linemen. And I think that when you think about the way the offensive line played, they didn't block well early on. So it took them a while to kind of get things going. And when Arthur Smith kind of got back to who he is and what he wants to be able to do is run the football and run the play action off of that, I really felt like they kind of caught their groove, but it just took them too long to get there.
And it took a second for Desmond Ridder to kind of get locked in as well. I mean, I think at one point he was 3 for 3 for like 0 yards. It was kind of a ridiculous stat line. Finished 15 for 18, 115 yards, 1 touchdown. He hasn't thrown an interception his first 5 starts. Gabe, what did you think about his performance in Week 1?
You know, I agree with everything that Jarvis said. I think that this performance kind of confirmed what we already knew, and that's the Falcons are not going to ask a ton out of him, right? Distribute the ball. They're going to rely on their run game. We know how they want to win. It's okay in a game that flows this way. When we're really going to learn more about Desmond is when they're down 2 scores. He has to throw more, and they're counting on him. That's when we're really going to learn more about him.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see, and especially the fact that we haven't gotten to see a lot of Desmond Ridder or this offense, just based off the fact we didn't get to see him very much during the preseason, so we'll get to learn as the season goes on. Now, for more on Ridder's performance, we go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium with Maria Martin, standing by with Joe Patrick.
Reggie, thank you. I'm here now with Joe Patrick from 92.9 The Game. And Joe, people were probably a little bit nervous when they were watching the Falcons in the first half of this game, but flipped to the second half. They started to figure things out. They didn't let the first half get to them. What were you most impressed with in this one?
Yeah, and rightfully so to be nervous in this one, because it really was kind of on a knife's edge. It really felt like it could go either way, but to me, the end result comes down to the way that Desmond Ridder was able to just compose himself. It was not pretty for him or the offense in the first half, but he was able to keep his composure. The team came out in the second half, and he was actually able to put some things together. He was 15 for 18 overall in this game, which is kind of striking considering just the way the offense went overall. But I just thought the main thing coming out of this game was the composure you saw from him. He never turned the ball over, and that's a testament to him considering how much he was getting pressured in the first half.
Calais Campbell also giving credit to not turning the ball over. He said that's huge from your quarterback, which is great. You saw him get some boost of confidence with that throw to Kyle Pitts. That was probably pretty nice for Dez. And a lot of people may be wanting to hit the panic button on Desmond Ridder because he didn't do things to necessarily win you the football game. But what would you say about Desmond in Week 1 that maybe he can improve on or carry into Week 2?
Yeah, Arthur Smith talked about it after the game, that there was a lot of details in terms of spacing and just these little things in pass protection that the team needs to get sorted out. And part of that is on Desmond Ridder. As the quarterback, you're the one who has to be sorting things out at the line of scrimmage and pass protection. Maybe he can help himself in that regard. But I think overall, when you look around the league, all these offenses are struggling. Defenses are dominating right now. And I think that a lot of that is just down to week one. You haven't seen some of these looks that teams are seeing, like the Falcons saw today. So I think over time, this team will get in more of a rhythm, as will the rest of the teams in the league. But I think what you saw today shows you that you're at least in stable hands with a quarterback like Ridder.
And shout out to Jesse Bates, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse Bates won this game today for the Falcons.
2 picks for Jesse Bates in his first game in a Falcons uniform. Joe, thank you. Remember, the Falcons have the Packers here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium next Sunday. They will face Jordan Love, but for now, they are 1-0 in NFC South play. Reggie, back to you.
All right, guys, thank you guys so much. Back here with the guys. Jarvis, I want to ask you about the offense. And Gabe, you just mentioned it because I think it's interesting as well. Once the team goes up against different squads that are maybe a little bit more high-powered, you're not going up against a rookie quarterback trying to figure out throwing 2 interceptions. Do you think that this offense is sustainable the way that they're running it and for them to get a bunch of wins this year?
To be honest with you, it's depending on who they're playing to get against. Because when you think about who's on the defense side of football for the Carolina Panthers, I think people have to remember, they have somebody by the name of Derek Brown, Brian Burns. Those dudes are really, really good. Because last year, Derek Brown had double-digit tackles in both the games last year against the Carolina Panthers. So I think one of those things that you have to really take a look at is understand who they're going up against. And to be honest with you, number 76 that we just see right there, Caleb McGarry, he has to play better. That's unacceptable right there, because when you get to a point where you can't even get your hands on a defensive end, when he's coming to rush at you like that, that's not a good sign. And I think that, you have to do better by your quarterback, because he's only played in 5 games. He started 5 games in his NFL career.
It definitely helps when you're running the ball, though. This team loves to run the football. You add a guy named Bijan Robinson. Our first opportunity to really see him play against some real talent. Gabe, were you impressed with what you saw out of him? It looked like he's got some wiggle.
He is sensational.
Yeah.
I really think this guy, that we talk about a ceiling, he could be the best running back in the league. And running back is a position that doesn't require patience. I mean, we're looking at a guy at year's end, we might consider him one of the 3 best running backs in the NFL. I mean, he does it all, the violent running, the speed, his ability as a pass catcher. I mean, there's a reason Sark was comparing this guy to Barry Sanders. I mean, this is a really special talent.
Look, man, 10 carries, 56 yards. He had a good game, but really the guy that stole the show running the football in this offense that ran the ball 26 total times. Tyler Algier, 15 carries, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jarvis, these 2 backs are a little bit different. How much does it help that they can kind of complement each other with their different skill sets?
Hey, can we, yeah, there we go. Tyler Algier is still here.
Go.
He broke a record that hadn't been broken since 1979. William Andrews, for all my old school Falcons fans out there. Yes, this man can still play football. Because, coming in with all the hype, Bijan Robinson, a lot of people thought about, okay, oh yeah, he's going to be the starting running back, and Tyler Algier is going to go somewhere and go high. No. Tyler Algier is a really good running back. He has his own style. They complement each other, and you saw that on the running down in the goal line where he bounced it outside. It was nothing in there. He just bounced, literally bounced off the defender and just took it to the house and had the speed to get to the edge of the end zone and get into the end zone. So those are some of the things that you have to remember. These guys complement each other. Talked to Tyler Algier in the locker room after the game. He said it's a healthy competition, and when you have guys thinking about it from that standpoint, that's when you know that Arthur Smith has let those guys know what their roles are, and those guys are going to be used heavily, especially until they get this passing game figured out.
Absolutely. It helps when you've got that kind of coach that seems like Arthur Smith has been creating. It's also kind of happening on both sides of the football. The defense, and a chance today, they were led by Jesse Bates, who was just incredible. 10 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 passes defended, a forced fumble in his first game as an Atlanta Falcon, showed out in front of the home crowd. Gabe, how big is it to be able to bring in a guy like this, pay him all this money, and you can see dividends right off the rip?
Well, you said it. There's a reason they're paying him what they are. I mean, this guy has been a part of a really good defense. You look at the Bengals. I mean, everyone talks about Burrow and Chase and whatnot, but their defense was a big reason they wound up in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, right? And he's been a big part of it there for a while, and the leadership is a big element of it. And he's young. You know, a lot of these free agents, you're paying them, and it's late 20s, early 30s. But this guy, he's going to be here for a while. And you talk about a tone setter. You talk about a guy that's a big part of your culture. This is it.
Whole lot of fun when this team is winning, man. We're hopping up on set and actually talking about a Falcons win, and they looked good doing it. Whole lot of fun. Another team that's winning a lot, the Atlanta Braves, coming up. After the commercial break, Braves have a great chance of clinching the division. This upcoming week, we're breaking down another week of the best team in baseball when we come back after the commercial break. Welcome back to Sports Extra, everybody. Let's talk about the Braves today. They became the first team to clinch a spot in the postseason with a win or two over the Pirates over the weekend. Look, let me tell you something. The first team to clinch, it took only 142 games. The magic number in the East for them to clinch the division is 6, and they can do it as early as Tuesday evening in Philly. Gabe, you were out at Truist Park today. This team, very good, and they're showing why all season long.
This has a chance to go down as the best Braves team ever.
Wow.
This is a World Series or bust team. I mean, you look at the individual records that are following with this team. They're probably going to set the MLB home run record. I mean, to me, they're so much better than the next best team, whoever you deem that. I expect this to be a deep October run. And frankly, I expect them to win the World Series. And there's a lot of randomness in MLB postseason. You never know, but this is a spectacular team.
Look, and they're led by a spectacular baseball player. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been unbelievable this season. In the win on Sunday, he had that 2 RBI single that went all the way to the gap. He celebrated hard because he knows he's really balling this year. Ronald Acuna Jr., there's so much talk about the race between him and Mookie Betts. Has he finally really, made that final separation after that performance out in L.A. and then, of course, over this last week?
Oh, it's been over. I think it was over in the series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, because when you think about going up against a guy that is supposedly chasing you or overtaking you. Now, granted, Mookie Betts had an amazing August. He had a ridiculous month of August, but we're just talking about the month of August. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been doing this all year. He's the first player ever to get 30 home runs and 60 steals. That has never happened before. So yeah, the type of season that Ronald Acuna is having right now, this MVP conversation should be over at this point. And if you're gonna bring in somebody, the only person you should be bringing in is not Mookie Betts. It's his teammate, Matt Olson. Yeah. Matt Olson has been playing lights out this year. He replaced Freddie Freeman, a guy who's more than likely he's headed to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, we talk about Ronnie, 8 for 26, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs over the last 7 days, and yet a lot of people are not talking about Matt Olson enough, who could be number 2 in this MVP race, leading league in home runs, has 121 RBIs. Gabe, how special a season is he having, and are we not appreciating enough just because of how much talent's on this roster?
I think it is a little underappreciated because we talk so much about Acuna, and Acuna's going to be the MVP, and Olson he's not necessarily, it sounds crazy to say this about a guy with 48 bombs. He's not the flashiest guy at times, right? He's not a huge personality, but he goes about everything so professionally. He's almost like he's going to have the second 50 homer season. And think about this franchise. Think about the people who have played for this franchise. He's going to have the second 50 homer season and probably set the record and top Andrew's mark. I mean, that's really, again, Eddie Matthews, Hank Aaron, Chip, go through the names. And Matt Olson's probably going to top the single season home run record. That is insane.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. This team is absolutely rolling. I'm curious, Jarvis, they're chasing this division title. They got some more games left, obviously, before they get into the postseason. As they look to try and wrap things up in the division, what are you hoping to see this team do over the next month before they really got to get going and win some games in the postseason?
Get the starting pitcher, get some more consistency from the starting pitching, right? Like Spencer Strider, has some little struggles as of late. Charlie Morton, he's been doing what Uncle Charlie type things, because when you think about coming down to the end of the season, that's when we're seeing kind of Charlie kind of tail off a little bit. Uncle Charlie, as I like to refer to him as. But I think if we can see his starting rotation get some consistency and figure out what they're gonna do, with a guy like Kyle Wright, what we're gonna see from Kyle Wright, I'm very interested to see how that works out. If Kyle Wright comes back healthy, I am really thinking this team is gonna make a run to the World Series, barring any catastrophic injury.
It really helps when you got a team in this offense that continues to fight from behind, too. Today was their 16th come-from-behind win after trailing after the 7th inning. This team can do no wrong. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about some more football as week 2 of the college football season is in the books. How the Dogs and Jackets improved from week 1 to week 2 after the break. Welcome back to Sports Extra, everybody. Jarvis Davis, Gabe Burns, still with me in the building. It's time to talk some college football, and let's begin with Georgia. They improved to 2-0 after a 45-3 win over Ball State on Saturday. Gabe, I want to come to you about this first. It seems like although this team has outscored their opponents 93-10 over the first couple of games this year, there's still a lot of people talking about Mike Bobo and this offense and complaining about how they might not be looking as good as they possibly can be. There's got to be an overreaction at this point, right?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, look, it hasn't necessarily been pretty all the time, and I think that everyone expected there was going to be some drop-off from, I mean, Todd Monken, he's the highest paid assistant, and obviously did an incredible job there, but just give it time. You know, there's a lot of new pieces, there's a lot of figuring things out. I don't think there's any reason to panic.
How important, I think, Jarvis, is it for Carson Beck to kind of lock in on that as well?
To be honest with you, I really feel like he's in a space where he had 2 preseason games to kind of get things right before the SEC play started. So when you have that type of that level of competition, like you really can't get a good gauge of what he's going to be or what he can be, you know, as the season goes along. But I feel like even though South Carolina is being very South Carolina right now, I really feel like we're going to be able to get a good gauge of where he is, because like Gabe said, Mike Bobo's still trying to figure this thing out. The offense has gotten off to a slow start, but they were able to, you know, finally figure it out because of the level of competition that they're going up against. But I think right now it's going to take some time for Carson Beck to kind of get comfortable, because they still want to get Brock Vandegrift in there, you know, get him some reps. So I don't know, it might be something there.
Look, I mentioned that this team outscored everybody 93-10, but part of that's the fact you've got some help on special teams as well. Mekhi Muse, really impressive the last couple of games for him, man. I mean, he had that 69-yard punt return touchdown, the first for a Georgia player since 2018. How important is it to have players like that seem to come out of nowhere? And is it just classic Georgia, Gabe, that we're seeing guys pop out of nowhere and contributing like this?
It's not going to be all the 5 stars. You need some of these other guys, and I think we can say Georgia has a pretty good history with some of these lower guys. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have a huge impact. And again, these are the type of guys you need to help you win a championship.
He actually had a touchdown in that first game as well. The kid is doing it all, so it really, really helps. Now, we want to talk about Georgia Tech as well. Back here in Atlanta, they got their first win of 2023. Over the weekend, Brent Key as the permanent head coach, his first one as the permanent guy. Jarvis, 48-13 was the final over South Carolina State. It seems like this team has made an improvement from week 1 to week 2. What do you think the biggest improvement has been?
Coaching. Because when you think about like the type of players that were out there making plays, you got like Jamal Haynes and you got the defensive end Kennard, who's a local kid. Those guys out there making plays, those guys aren't transfers. Those guys were already on this team. They were still on this team. So for them to be out there making plays this year, what's the difference? Coaching. I think Brent Key was the biggest thing for him when he first took over for Jeff Collins when he first got fired. He wanted to get the special teams right. So that means getting back to the basics, like getting down to the nitty-gritty of things and not trying to sell Waffle House cups and, you know, having promotional marketing teams, you know, promoting all the players and everything like that. It's just, he basically stripped it down and said, you know what, we're going to be concerned about football and getting Georgia Tech back to some respectability.
It's interesting, too, because it feels like some of the decisions that he's made so far have been really key. You get Jeff Sims decides to leave the program, and we've seen that he has not been good in his new home in Nebraska. Haynes King comes in from Texas A&M. Your impressions of him over the first 2 games, it seems like he's a guy that's really leading this team. They've seemed to ride behind him.
You know, I like him.
Yeah.
And he's kind of exceeded my expectations so far. I really like what he's brought, and I think he's been a good fit. And again, I'm with Jarvis. I think he's a good coach. You have Buster Faulkner. You have some of the. I think he's got a great staff, and I'm excited to see kind of how this team progresses as the year goes on.
He's been sneaky good. 21 of 29 over the weekend, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's feeling really good. Jarvis, I do want to ask you really quickly, from the Jeff Collins era to the Brent Key era, what do you think has been the biggest change that you have seen between these two sides over a small sample size?
Just simplifying things, and like you mentioned with you know, the quarterback, you know, that was there, you know, there previously, and he, like you said, transferred to Nebraska.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention his name. Y'all know who we're talking about.
Jeff Sims.
Jeff Sims, like Jeff Sims. I think that, you know, understanding, identifying what you're trying to do on offense and having an identity, because the way Haynes King throws the ball down the football field, it just looks different. It looks like he's capable. Like, we haven't seen a capable quarterback at Georgia Tech in quite some time. You know, before Jeff Sims, we're running the triple option, so it just looks like when the offense runs out on the field and Haynes King is that quarterback, it just seems like, hey, they have an opportunity to score. It's just simple, man, like simplifying things, and I think that Brent Key has done a really, really good job of that.
Gabe, I want to ask you one overall college football question. We saw a lot of craziness over the weekend. Texas beat Alabama. It feels like a lot of people are talking about that dynasty finally being over. Have we reached the point where Georgia is now the standard of what teams should be kind of going after?
You know, I'm concerned about Bama.
Okay.
You will not find me on camera talking about the death of their dynasty, though. I do think that Georgia is the standard because it's simple. They're 29-1 over the last 2 years. They're back-to-back national champions. And, you know, you look at the SEC right now, we've seen LSU and Bama in some big games, and right now, frankly, there's no reason to pick against Georgia.
Jarvis, really quick, does anybody scare you?
No,
Nobody.
Not at all. I mean, like, we're talking about Carson Beck getting more reps. We're talking about Carson Beck getting more comfortable in the offense. We're not talking about that defense that's still forcing a lot of turnovers and doing what they're supposed to do on that side of the football. So because we know that's Kirby Smart's home. He is a defensive-minded coach. So as long as that defense is humming like it's supposed to, I think the Georgia Bulldogs are going to have plenty of time to get their offense figured out by the time where SEC championships roll around, and definitely when the playoffs get here.
I'll tell you, there's not many teams on this schedule that scare me either. You said 2 preseason games?
Two
exactly
preseason games.
Really what they were. All right, coming up, we wrap things up with our video of the week, talking about some history with an Atlanta native. I think you know what we're talking about. All that and more next. Final block of the show, it's our video of the week, and it could only be one thing. Atlanta-born Coco Gauff is the 2023 U.S. Open champion, and she's won her first major at just 19 years old. She's the first American teenager to be crowned at her home major since Serena Williams won it back in 1999 as a 17-year-old. Gabe, how cool is this?
It's just so awesome, and you can't say enough about her. And honestly, how lucky are we that we're going to be able to watch her, career unfold over all these years?
Yeah, when you think about the way that she lifted up her father after the match and just talking about her relationship and how he's just been so supportive of her, and then to see her at the U.S. Open when she was 8 years old on that video, just so excited and so happy, and then for them to flash forward now that she's actually the U.S. Open champion. Coco Gauff is absolutely amazing. When you think about where she is right now, like Gabe said, I can't wait to watch how her career unfolds.
Should be a whole lot of fun. I'm going to take some credit here because, of course, I am. She's like 18-1 since I talked to her while she was still in Atlanta. So I'm taking full credit for this. I saw her in the semifinal as well. Okay? That championship should be going to me. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. We'll see you guys next week here on Sports Extra.